Well, hey guys, welcome back. Today we are catching up on some skincare Q&As from the past few weeks over on my Instagram. I'm going to do a deep dive answering some of these really excellent questions that I've been getting. I've got all the festive holiday background going. I'm really excited for the holidays and I hope you all are having a lovely last few weeks of 2025. All right, let's get into it. Number one, what cream can I use to relieve itch fast? First and foremost, when it comes to silencing itch, pro tip, put your moisturizer, your body cream or whatever, in the refrigerator. When you go to put it on chilled. The cold temperature will work in your favor to silence itch. Look for body creams or lotions that have the ingredient pramoxine. It's a topical anesthetic that helps silence those little itch nerves. CeraVe Itch Relief has pramoxine and also Sarna Sensitive. You could also look for moisturizers with menthol, leads to a little bit of a tingling sensation that distracts the itch as well. You know, one thing I have found when it comes to alleviating itch is it's a little intense, but amlactin, 12% or 15% lotions. These have lactic acid or ammonium lactate, which is basically the same thing, just the salt of lactic acid. But if you've been scratching and your skin's really itchy, but the barrier is impaired and you put that on, it will sting. And you're like, oh my gosh, my skin feels like it's on fire. The discomfort lasts maybe 30 seconds, 45 seconds. Once the discomfort of the stinging dissipates, it's as if the little itch nerves completely forgot to bother you. It is really a game changer for itchy skin. Not to mention amlactin, 12% and 15%. Not only are they great at improving dry skin, improving moisture content, smoothing the skin surface, but with long-term consistent use, they can improve epidermal and dermal thickness. Really, really good and fragrance-free. Do you believe in fermented rice water as an alternative? Fermented rice water is enriched in humectants and anti-inflammatory compounds that can soothe and hydrate the skin. As far as an at-home remedy, it's a relatively safe thing to do, provided, of course, that you're really diligent with making it up fresh, because without any preservatives, you run the risk of microbial contamination. Fermentation of rice water may also enrich for compounds that could potentially help with hyperpigmentation, and the fermentation process might also yield an end product that is good for the hair strands specifically. So it's a popular remedy. Like I said, I don't really see any problem with doing it. I see how it can be soothing, hydrating, might even be beneficial for people who have eczema for soothing the skin, similar to the use of colloidal oatmeal. Can a fast of 72 hours help clear up acne and other skin conditions? Unfortunately, no, but there is some data to suggest that time-restricted eating or intermittent fasting can actually yield some benefits as far as psoriasis, perhaps by helping to reduce inflammation throughout the body. So in other words, if you have done intermittent fasting and you note an improvement in an inflammatory skin condition, there's definitely a potential mechanism there for sure. 72 hours seems a bit extreme, but there is some interesting research overall on the potential skin benefits to intermittent fasting. And in fact, I did a video on this topic a couple of years ago, so I'll link that down below in the description box. What causes guttate psoriasis? I had absolutely no strep throat symptoms. So guttate psoriasis is a variant of psoriasis. It's called guttate because the skin lesions look like little rain droplets almost. They're little round spots of the psoriasis, as opposed to those large plaques on the elbows and knees. And notoriously, a trigger for it is having strep throat. But here's the thing. You can have an asymptomatic strep infection, and that can be a trigger as well. Some people just carry group A streptococcus. Guttate psoriasis typically appears roughly 2 to 3 weeks after an infection. So if you were asymptomatic, well, you may not make that connection or realize that that has happened. Guttate psoriasis can also be triggered though by other infections like certain viral infections, as well as certain medications, and of course stress. It also can be triggered by skin injury. Psoriasis is a condition that exhibits something known as the isomorphic response or Kebnerization, where skin injury elicits more psoriasis in the area of injury. Best sunscreen for acne-prone, oily skin. Unfortunately, there is no such award. There is no best sunscreen for whatever indication you are looking for the most part, because it boils down to the individual's preference. A lot of times you'll recommend a sunscreen that a lot of people with oily skin say they love, but without a doubt, a third of people will love it, a third of people will hate it, and a third of people will be like, next. But I have a list of sunscreens for oily, acne-prone skin that tend to go over well, so I'll link that down below. Any good sunscreen that does not irritate the eyes. So I suggest suggest, first and foremost, choosing a mineral sunscreen to use around the eyes if you find that you encounter burning and stinging. Mineral sunscreens, or inorganic sunscreens as they're also referred to, contain zinc oxide and or titanium dioxide, typically do not burn and sting. I also suggest choosing a water-resistant formula. It will be less likely to seep into your eyes. You may also elect to use a sunscreen stick around the eyes. These are less likely to seep into the eyes as well. Is it recommended to use Differin on the neck and chest for anti-aging? I use the sandwich method for my face. I was wondering if I could do the same for the neck and chest. So Differin, or adapalene, could be used on the neck and chest with the caveat that these areas in general are more inclined to develop irritation due to the delicate nature of the skin there. It's not to say that adapalene, aka Differin, or any topical retinoid is off the table in these areas. Just need to be really careful when you introduce it because you can get a lot of irritation. For me personally, I cannot tolerate tretinoin on my neck. It just makes my neck so itchy. But I do really well with retinaldehyde or retinol. As a matter of fact, I'm currently using that Purito retinaldehyde tranexamic acid serum on my chest and neck, and I've been using it now for a little over a month every night, and it really has smoothed out the skin on my upper chest and my neck, my décolleté area, and it also has sort of brightened it up a bit as far as just evening out overall skin tone. The skin appears a lot more moisturized, smooth, and so that's been working out really well for me. It's an interesting formula. You need to shake it up first, but it has these little spheres in it that contain the retinaldehyde. Tranexamic acid, we think of it as a medication given orally for melasma, hyperpigmentation, but topically it shows promise for improving the moisture barrier and may be beneficial for redness as well. Let me know if you were one of the winners of the Purito tranexamic acid serum from my last Stalvana video. I saw the last time I asked you guys, a couple of you said, yeah, I won that. So let me know if you won it and if you have been using it, what you think. But I've been pleasantly surprised with how that's been going on my upper chest and neck, and I might reorder it. So that being said, if you find that adapalene is too irritating in those areas, you might elect to use a cosmetic retinol or retinaldehyde to improve the look of aging skin there. Can vitamin C serums be used on damp skin right after cleansing but before moisturizer? Or does the skin have to be completely dry before application? If it can be used on damp skin, how do I prevent transepidermal water loss in my morning routine? So yes, vitamin C serums can go on to damp skin, so you can cleanse, rinse the cleanser off, pat dry the skin a bit if it's soaking wet but it's still damp at that point, and then put your vitamin C serum on. Then go ahead and put your moisturizer on if you want, but you're going to be using sunscreen, which is a moisturizer. So you want to make sure that the vitamin C serum dries down. That shouldn't take very long. There's not an exact precise amount of time to wait for it to dry down. The reason you want it to dry down is because the sunscreen that you put on over it will not set up on damp skin. So you always want to put sunscreen onto dry skin. Now, if you're following it up with some other sort of moisturizing product, serum or whatever, then you can just go ahead and apply it right on over the vitamin C serum. You don't need to wait for it to dry. White male in his late 40s here. What do you recommend as the proper way to care for my shaved head? I'm just using Aveeno shampoo to keep it clean. So hair, it gives a decent amount of sun protection of the scalp. So if you have a bald head, you really want to make sure you're prioritizing sun protection. And that includes wearing a hat when you're outdoors, applying sunscreen to the head. If you have a completely bald scalp though, you can actually use your face wash or body wash to wash your scalp because you don't have to deal with the hair strand issue. The whole reason behind shampoo for scalp cleansing is because of the hair strands themselves. If you use a body wash or a facial cleanser to wash your scalp, it will leave the hair strands dull, frizzy, unmanageable, tangle prone, a mess. Okay, so that is why you have shampoo. And it's formulated to remove oil from the scalp and from the hair up close to the scalp, as well as scalp residue, product residue. Shampoo formulation is very different overall from facial cleanser or body wash. There are some products specifically, they're typically marketed for babies that are like a body body wash, shampoo in one. And those tend to be very mild shampoos. So if you have a lot of product residue on your hair, for those of us with hair, and you use one of those, it might not be enough to get rid of product residue. But if you don't have any hair, those are actually a great option. If you have hair, but your hair is not particularly oily, you don't use a lot of products, or you have really sensitive scalp, you're dealing with a lot of scalp dryness and irritation, those are a great option to use as well. But long story short, if you have a bald head, you don't have any hair strands, then you can just use the same facial cleanser that you use to wash your face, to wash your head, or likewise a body wash. Are dry lips and perioral hyperpigmentation connected? They certainly can be, especially in cases of irritant or allergic contact dermatitis, which can happen to things that come in contact with the lips. So when it comes to the lips in particular, I always remind people that lip balms themselves can actually be what is causing the dry, chapped lips. If you develop an allergy to an ingredient such as propolis, lanolin, beeswax, fragrance, or flavorant, well, you put the lip balm on and it feels soothing, it feels moisturizing, the lips feel soft, they look a little bit better, but then because you have a sensitivity to an ingredient in it, later on you develop extremely dry, chapped, irritated lips. And most people don't make that connection, so they end up reaching for the same product. It can cause a lot of irritation to the lips. That irritation and inflammation, they can lead to discoloration around the mouth, especially in people with deeper skin tones. When we're talking about an irritant dermatitis on the lips, in most cases it's saliva. So your immune system isn't necessarily recognizing anything about saliva and reacting to it. Saliva is just irritating, period, point blank. It has digestive enzymes in it, and it exacerbates transepidermal water loss. And so if you lick your lips a lot, that will cause an irritant dermatitis, an irritant cheilitis, as it's properly called, to the lips and the skin around the mouth, which can subsequently lead to hyperpigmentation. You also can develop an irritant dermatitis from the juices in certain fruits like papaya or pineapple or certain citrus fruits. You can develop an irritant dermatitis as well to toothpaste ingredients, and that ultimately, through the upregulation in inflammatory mediators, can lead to hyperpigmentation around the mouth. So long story short, yes, dry, chapped lips most certainly can be associated with hyperpigmentation around the mouth. And I have a whole video on how to get rid of discoloration, hyperpigmentation around the mouth. My nails have peeling spots. Are my oral minoxidil and finasteride causing this? Most likely no. Minoxidil or finasteride, they're not known to cause any sort of nail abnormality. Interestingly enough, minoxidil applied topically or taken orally has been shown to be helpful for nail growth, likely because of improved blood flow. I've often mentioned this in some of my shopping videos or videos on nail care, but if you apply minoxidil around the nail folds, it will help nail growth. You just have to be careful, because if you touch your face, you transfer the minoxidil to your face, you'll have unwanted facial hair in those areas. Now, peeling nails, or onychoschisia, basically caused by layers of the nail separating. That's often due to some sort of external factor, mostly frequent hand washing or contact with some sort of chemical or irritant, like a harsh detergent. Less commonly, they can be a sign of some sort of internal issue, like a vitamin deficiency. Pretty much any vitamin deficiency. This also can happen with certain thyroid disorders. Thyroid disorders can really show up in the nails. I have a video, as a side note, on all of the nail findings of people who have thyroid disease. Check that out. It's really interesting how the nails can provide clues to internal diseases. But to address the peeling, I suggest taking care to avoid direct contact with harsh chemicals like cleaning products, making sure to protect the hands, especially when you're doing any kind of wet work like washing dishes by hand. Always wear gloves. And then the other thing I suggest is to apply petroleum jelly around the nail folds. It really can help the nails tremendously. Try it also on your feet, your toenails. It works by helping the skin around the nails and nail folds to be a better barrier to water and irritant entry up under the nail, and that ultimately helps nails not be as brittle. And I also suggest avoiding picking at the nail folds, pushing back the cuticles. Those are all things that can contribute to different nail plate issues like onychoschisia or little white spots. Why is hydroquinone banned in Europe but can be used in the United States? So hydroquinone is not banned in Europe, nor is it banned in the United States. It's available by prescription. In the United States, hydroquinone used to be over-the-counter, an over-the-counter medication. It no longer is, but it is not banned, and it is a gold standard treatment for hyperpigmentation. How long can purging with azelaic acid last? Is twice a day better? Purging is a term that refers to the temporary increase in the number of acne spots one who has acne gets when they first start using a topical ingredient that helps improve skin cell turnover. Basically, acne below the surface comes to the surface. That's mostly something that is thought to occur with topical retinoids. It's not really seen in azelaic acid, even though, yes, technically azelaic acid is a mild exfoliant. Purging is really not common or typical. Most cases, it's simply irritation that the individual is experiencing, and irritation to a topical can last for a couple of weeks and then resolve once you get accustomed to it. But if you are persistently irritated by a given topical, it could be there's something in the inactive ingredients that you don't get along with, in which case, A, it's not purging, and B, it's not something that is likely to get better by just persevering on. As far as once a day or twice a day, typically azelaic acid for as a prescription for acne is prescribed twice a day. Though individuals who use it once a day certainly can see benefit, but twice a day is usually going to get you results faster and perhaps a little bit better. Will scalp folliculitis ever go away on its own? Washing my scalp every day and using Dirt Coast shampoo, which has salicylic acid, doesn't seem to help, only keeps it bearable. Only time it really went away was with isotretinoin, but don't want to take it for a third time. Okay, so to back the bus up a bit, folliculitis is actually just an umbrella term for many different diseases of the hair follicle. So the first question is, what type of folliculitis do you have? In order to know how to go forward, you have to know what type you have. Otherwise, it's shooting in the dark. For example, you could have an infectious folliculitis, in which case you need a targeted antimicrobial to target the infection to clear it up. Some folliculitides will resolve on their own, whereas others, namely the infectious kind, require specific targeted treatments. If left untreated, they can become more involved, more extensive, and more problematic. All right, guys, so those are the questions I wanted to answer in today's video. I enjoyed doing this. Hopefully it gives you guys who don't follow me on Instagram a little bit of an overview of some common questions that I get. Maybe these are things that you never thought of or that you have wondered about. You know, it gives you an opportunity to hear the answers. I've been doing these here on YouTube for a couple of months now, off and on the weekend videos, and you guys seem to really like them. I'm getting a lot of positive feedback in the comments, and I see you guys are watching these videos longer, so it sounds like you're really enjoying them, which is fantastic. Let me know in the comments though what specific questions you have, so that the next weekend, not tomorrow, but the next weekend, I can answer some of your specific questions here in the comments. So leave your comments down below. Anyways, guys, I'm gonna wrap this video up, but come back tomorrow. I'll answer some more questions because I have a ton of great ones, and I'll also share with you guys the L'Oreal Beauty Advent Calendar openings from this week. I got some winners, but I hope you all are having a fantastic weekend. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and as always, don't forget, sunscreen and subscribe. I'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Bye!